You're listening to the VTZone.com's weekly Scoutcast. Everything Hokies. And now here's publisher Jason Stamm.
Welcome to another edition of the VTZone.com Scoutcast. We kind of had a little, I guess, longer time off here. We couldn't get our podcast in last week. Derek Skip Hopkins, I know we tried to get him on, but couldn't join us. He was busy in Brazil last week. Apparently he's busy now that he's stateside, but I do have Doug Bowman on with me, so we've got the main, I don't want to put Skip down here, but at least the main two, I guess, here involved.
I'll go with that. I'm down with that.
So, we don't have Skip's expertise, but we have Doug's wittiness and...
Yeah, I guess Brazil really changed him.
I know, they always put, in your high school yearbook, don't change, and Skip did that. He changed.
Yep, 1 week later, can't even get on the podcast.
I know. So, we'll try to make do here without him. I hope we can get him on next week, but I don't know. We'll see how much Brazil has changed him even more once he really gets back into things. So, I hope he didn't come down with Zika virus. That was what I was concerned with, Doug. I kept texting him to make sure he brought his bug spray. That's the last thing we needed was him to come back with Zika.
Yeah, that and don't swim in the water.
Yeah, the beach. Of course, he was in. Well, he wasn't in the rainforest, right? He was kind of more on the coast.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. Well, he can give us all the details if we can get him on here next week. So it's been a busy last couple weeks, and we're going to go back the full 2 weeks, but a little over the past week now, it's been pretty busy with Virginia Tech sports, especially recruiting. I feel like everybody was a little questioning the ineptness maybe of the staff and how could they recruit? Could they get some of these big time guys in here? So Saturday they had their Blacksburg Bash, the cookout we've all been kind of looking forward to. We knew it was coming for weeks. Been kind of keeping track on some of the visitors, the guys that would be in there. They come up with 5 commitments. One of those is a silent verbal commit, so that's still kind of off the radar. Not public, not out yet. But four commitments that were public, and they're pretty big ones, Doug. You've got Sean Savoy, Jalen Griffin, Aiden Brown, and Bryce Thompson. So, even just overall, or I don't know specifically those guys, but what does that mean? What do you think for Virginia Tech? That's a pretty good day's work to get 4 guys in one, or 5 guys in one day.
Yeah, I guess the barbecue went well, and they'll be doing that again next year.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah, well, you talked about the 3 2017 kids, Savoy, Brown, and who's the one I'm missing? Griffin?
Yeah, Griffin.
So, those are three quality prospects at 3 positions of need. If you look at the roster right now and the 3 positions they need are offensive line and wide receiver and linebacker, and all 3 of those check those boxes. So I think that was a good day for him.
Yeah, Aiden Brown, I know he wasn't really highly regarded. I think Virginia Tech was by far his biggest offer, but, it's no secret the need that Virginia Tech has there for offensive linemen. He's more of an interior guy. I think he fits more as a guard. I don't think he has any center experience, but obviously, there's always a need there. You get Gallo for a little bit of time here still, but they're going to need to be working on another center back behind him. So maybe Aiden Brown's that guy, I'm not sure, but Jalen Griffin, one-time Cal commitment, was offered.
Kid, that's good.
Yeah, and a Georgia kid, so that helps. And that's the thing too; these are kind of spaced out. You get Sean Savoy; he's a DC guy, so Wilson's a pretty big school up in DC. Aiden Brown, I think, probably one of the more significant ones as far as school-wise at Bullis. Bullis, it's not quite DeMatha or some of these big powerhouses up there, but Bullis it's produced its share of talent. They had Dwayne Haskins last year, have produced some other guys out of there. And then Bryce Thompson, my first chance of seeing him, I never even heard of him until he camped at Virginia Tech on July 17th. Came away from that with an offer, immediately invited him to come back the next weekend for the cookout. I thought he looked good. I think he was arguably, I don't know if he was the best player there, but one of. He made a couple of DBs he went against look pretty silly on a few routes. So you're talking about receiver help for down the road, and he's not quite, as tiny as Khalil Pimpleton or Sean Savoy, I think he adds a little bit of size. Obviously has the speed, routes, and great hands. So I think he's going to be a pretty good get down the road.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what you want out of those one-day camps when you're not ready to build a whole class around those kind of guys, but we're going to identify a couple guys to get involved with and close on them pretty quickly, especially in Thompson's case for a 2018 guy. I think that's pretty much exactly what you want.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they thought they were going to close on him a week later, but you'll take that if you're Virginia Tech, I think. And I know he's really good friends with Wright Bynum. I think that made a pretty big difference having him on board also. So, hey, keep the connections going. But past that, and then they continued here. Really, just Wednesday here got another commitment. Wednesday, I guess it was morning, afternoon. I lose track of the time. Tavion Land, a 2019 commit. So, I guess as surprising as it is to get a 2018 commit, Bryce Thompson was first 2018. They've already got one on board now in 2019. And Tavion Land, I did get a chance to see him over in Virginia Beach earlier this year. I guess it was last month. Bishop Sullivan kids, so we know the connections they've got there. That's becoming more and more kind of the school everybody is going to over in that area. You've got Taj Capehart there. You've got the Gaddy brothers there. I don't think obviously the Gaddy brothers are going to move on. They're going to go elsewhere, but definitely helps down the road, I think. And Tavion Land, very impressive looking kid so far. I mean, he's a DB, and that one goes 100% to Zon Burden. Zon has really, I think, stepped up his game over there quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the top players, I guess, in whatever rankings you're looking at for 2019 right now. And to start off that class, you can't even drive right now. So who knows how it's going to turn out, or if you get to signing day for the 2019 class. But I mean, anytime you can kind of build that momentum, particularly in the 757, I think that's big. We talked about Bishop Sullivan. I mean, that's going to be a program. That's going to be one of the bigger programs here over the next 4 years or whatever it's going to be. So, I mean, who knows what happens down the road? But obviously, he's super talented, and if he can continue to develop and Tech can continue to hold on to him for, I guess it's going to be 3 full years.
Yeah, he's still got three seasons of high school left.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about having those kind of highly rated guys. Like, we've been talking about getting Devin Hunter in and how big that is for the 2017 class. And you get one of those kids already for the 2019 class. I think that's big for kind of building where they want the program to go. Well,
and you're exactly right. I mean, yeah, he can't drive yet, so he's still a very young kid. And, I don't know, I'll be very surprised to see it stick 100% for the next, like you said, 3 years now, or over 3. Well, just under 3 years, I guess, till he would actually sign and be on board. But
I'm sure he'll take he'll go watch a game somewhere else at some point over the next.
Oh, he will. Like the biggest thing with these guys, and that's the thing, a commitment. It's kind of it is aggravating. It's kind of just gotten to this point that a commitment doesn't really mean a ton anymore. It still means something, but so many times these guys will commit and go somewhere else. But at this point, I would be shocked if he doesn't visit other places. One of the only guys I can think of that was ever been really 100% from the very beginning was like Vinny Mahota, and those guys just don't come around very often. Where Virginia Tech was the offer he wanted, that's what he got. He wasn't going anywhere. He turned on Alabama even to go down there for a visit, turned them down. He actually had a scholarship offer from Bama. I know we mentioned him on here before, and who knows? He could turn out to be something like that, but I think it's still way too early. But
I mean, yeah, especially at Bishop Sullivan, where they're going to be. I mean, he's going to have teammates for the next 3 or 4 years that are going to be taking visits elsewhere. So, I mean, all it takes is for one of them to say, "Hey, why don't you come join me at come down for a visit to watch, some game in the SEC or something," and he just tags along. And so, I mean, obviously that's going to happen, but you can't worry about that. And I mean, people are worried about if he's 15 and if he's going to develop, but he could either turn out to be not as good, or he could also turn out to be a lot better than people think. And then all of a sudden you're talking about, I mean, he's already highly rated as he is, but he could also just get even higher rated and
be a 5-star kind of kid too, depending on how he develops. So you never know which way they're going to go.
Well, yeah, and you don't know if he's, which you would hope he's not, but I'd like to think he's not finished developing yet. I mean, who knows? He's gonna, if he's only 5'8", about 165 right now, he's probably gonna grow. He's, like you mentioned, Doug, he's gonna get a lot more offers, a lot more looks, and I don't know. You can't really fault the kid, and that's the other thing too. It's interesting that we've talked before. Justin Fuente, for the longest time, or at least when he started, was all about guys not visiting other places, and I think he's kind of realized that's not very.
It's not realistic.
It's not realistic at all. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think obviously in this case, especially, you commit this early. You cannot fault him at all for wanting to see what else is out there. It's almost like he just gets really into the moment, wants to do it. I mean, that's great for both of them. It's great publicity for Virginia Tech to get a 2019 kid right now, but to say it's going to 100% stick, and then you just can't get mad at him later on when he decides to visit other places. You hope he sticks, but there's a long way to go there. So, switching things up here a little bit, Doug. We did have the ACC preseason team, the first team, come out, and they didn't release second or third teams, but first team preseason team came out, and I don't know. I can't say as I'm surprised. I mean, Virginia Tech was 7-6 last season, but Isaiah Ford is the only Hokie on the team. So, any thoughts on that? Surprised? Not surprised? What do you think about Isaiah?
Not surprised. I mean, I guess the only other guy that you could make a case for is Bucky Hodges. But I mean, Ford is obviously the surefire all ACC player, and I don't think you could look around the rest of the depth chart and see somebody that you would think got snubbed there. But I guess it gives the rest of the guys a lot of motivation going into the season, which can be a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I could think of, I don't know. I mean, McMillan is good. I don't think he's a first team guy. I mean,
it doesn't even sound like they're as sold on him as being kind of as featured as he was last year. I think.
Well, the offense has changed. I mean, you're talking about they're wanting to run 5 receivers. I mean, it sounds like there's going to be times where McMillan will probably be in the slot some too. So.
Yeah, they're going to move around, and I mean, they're getting McKenzie and Williams and McLeese and Rogers. I mean, that's a lot of guys needing to touch the ball in addition to the wide receivers and Bucky Hodges. So, I mean, that's probably. I would think McMillan would get some consideration there, but at the same time, his role is kind of up in the air right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to get his carries, and I honestly, I still think he's going to get 1,000 yards because he's going to play a full season, or at least if he can stay healthy, he'll play a full season. If that happens, I think he'll still get 1,000, but I can't see him putting up 1,600 yards like he was talking about wanting to do because, like you mentioned, his role is going to change. They're going to run the ball. They have to keep defenses honest, but he's not going to be getting 30 carries a game or anything. So over a full season, I think he can get 1,000 yards because he's that good of an athlete, that good of a runner. But, yeah, I don't see him getting any ridiculous numbers like he was on pace to do last year had he played a full season. So, yeah, I'm not surprised. But, that came off of ACC kickoff, which, Doug, we had obviously our network scout. We had plenty of help there in covering that. ACC put out stuff on the ACC kickoff last week. Our friends over at WSLS were there to help us out should anything happen. And, I can't say I'm really surprised, but really nothing came out of there. And you can't, I don't know, I'm not surprised at all to hear that because of, Justin Fuente is not one to give anything away. He wants to remain as much of a secret as he can going into that Tennessee game. And Kenny Canham, Sam Rogers, that's kind of his two, I don't know if I'd call them henchmen, but that's his guys. So they're going to pretty much not say anything also. Yeah, I wasn't surprised at all.
I mean, if you're making headlines at ACC Media Day, it's generally not a good sign.
Like Jameis Winston.
Keeping your, yeah. I mean, if you're making headlines there, then you're saying something completely ridiculous, or making some ridiculous, or making some absurd guarantee or something like that. So Fuente went down there, didn't want to make any headlines. I don't think you're going to get anything crazy out of Sam Rogers or Kenny Canham. So, mission accomplished.
Yeah, I'll never forget 2 years ago, Doug, seeing, I was there 2 years ago and saw, that was right after all the Jameis Winston stuff with the crab legs. And, I mean, it was just like a media circus everywhere that guy went. I mean,
Yeah.
they put him in groups. Like, this group will go, it's usually like, I think 4 or 5 teams, they'll stick in there at a time. And I remember when Jameis Winston's group went, I don't think there was anybody, like one person, media person, like the other team's tables. They were all at Jameis Winston's tables. I mean, it was every bit of that spotlight was on that guy.
Yeah, it's the only people at the table are like the SID for that school.
I felt kind of bad for him. I know they already kind of had some trouble putting out that fire. They didn't help it with the social media gafes they had. And,
No.
yeah, they didn't really do themselves any favors. But, yeah, I think Virginia was pretty much smooth sailing if you're Virginia Tech. And, as media, obviously we didn't get anything out of it. But if you're Virginia Tech, I think that's how you want it.
Yeah, I mean, the only way you're gonna make news. I'm gonna tee you up here. The only way you're gonna make news here at ACC Media Day is if you got like a TV network to announce or something.
Well, and I guess that was a surprise. Like, we knew that was going to happen. They kind of,
That's sure.
That was the thing. They built, it came out, like 3 days before that?
Yeah,
and
they
then
were
the day
leaking
before,
stuff.
they're like, oh, stay tuned, big announcement coming. ESPN executives are going to be there.
Yeah.
Jeez, wonder what that could be about. So, if I recall, though, Doug, you had a story about the ACC network not too long ago. So what do you think about them finally announcing an ACC TV network?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously completely necessary. I don't think you could continue in the status quo going up against the SEC and the Big Ten and really expect to have a fair shot, aside from the Clemson and FSU's, where with the donor base and all that stuff that they have, to bring the rest of the conference up to par, you were going to have to do something with the TV deal. And I think this is on the right path to it. I think it's interesting that they're waiting 3 years until 2019 to do it, when no one's really sure what the cable industry is going to look like and if they're going to be willing to pay to put a ACC network on television. So I think I was listening to a podcast today that was talking about how it's going to be interesting to see how they sell this to the cable providers and stuff, to see if they can actually launch it in 2019 or if it's just kind of going to be a fluid situation and figuring out what the industry looks like at that time. So, but the digital only aspect's huge for other sports, and the basketball. Obviously, they announced that they're going to a 20-game basketball schedule, which is sweet for just about everybody.
It's sweet for that TV network too, to carry all those games.
Yeah, I mean, they need the content, but it's big for those secondaries. I mean, you think some of Virginia Tech's programs are going to be featured on there. I mean, I think wrestling, and they'll get a big boost out of that, and baseball for sure. Obviously, in the spring, will be a big boost, but it'll be interesting to see as they start to negotiate with the cable networks how exactly it's going to go, because I'm not sure that getting a national audience is realistic.
Well, and that's what I'm wondering. Like, the Big Ten network and the SEC network obviously have done very well. Pac-12 has its own network. I don't think past the West Coast, it's really, you don't hear much about it over here. So is the ACC network, is it going to be, everybody likes to think it's going to do well. There's just, everybody has to have their own network now. Is it really going to do as well as we all think it will, and as the ACC, I guess, hopes it will?
I mean, the model is obviously the SEC network, but the thing about the SEC network is if that thing didn't get put on cable channels everywhere, the SEC fans were going to go nuts. If that thing's not on, if that's not on TV in Atlanta, Georgia, every single cable provider would have gotten so many calls from SEC fans. If the ACC network isn't on in Atlanta, Georgia, I don't think the Georgia Tech fans are going to be burning down the hallways trying to get that thing on TV. You're not going to have the Wake Forest fans or University of Miami.
How about the Boston College fans? Those are rowdy,
Boston
Doug.
College,
Those are some rowdy fans.
You're not going to have the kind of demand to put it on the network. I mean, Boston is a huge TV market, but Boston College and barely matters there. So
Well,
I think
you
it's
do have the
a
entire
completely
East,
different animal.
you got the entire East Coast. I mean, from literally from top to bottom, from Miami all the way to New England, covered with the ACC. So that part helps just with the geographic footprint. But I don't know.
They're not going to be. You're not going to have the ability to get as much money out of whatever the cable provider you're talking to, because if you want to argue that the ACC is in Boston and New York because of Boston College and Syracuse, then you're not negotiating for a very strong position there.
Well, now Syracuse basketball I think will do good in New York, but Syracuse football, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't. It's not as strong as SEC. I think that's one of the reasons I was talking about. It's got to be huge for the ACC to be really good at football for the next year or two. If the ACC goes back to what they were a few years ago, when they were just probably the fifth best Power 5 conference and not relevant, I think that weakens their position immensely without a strong flagship product. But if you can get an ACC where Florida State and Clemson and Virginia Tech and Miami and Carolina, and where you can get some depth and some week to week games that are kind of at that level where like the SEC, you might have a better chance of getting a better deal. But if it's an average product, I would be shocked if it launched in 2019 as successful as they hope right now.
And that's where the ACC is pulling for, and they need Virginia Tech to be back good like they were 5-6 years ago even. And they need them to they need Miami to get back. They need Virginia Tech to be back.
Yeah, that's the dream scenario, is if they can have Florida State and Clemson going at each other in the Atlantic, and then Virginia Tech and Miami. I would say probably even more Miami than Virginia Tech at this point, just because of their national brand. But if you can get both conferences kind of competitive on a national, relevant national, I don't think if Wake Forest is competing, then it's going to make that big a difference. But
it's not going to move the needle that much.
No. But you need the bigger program, so probably throw Carolina in there too, as an important program to kind of get back to relevance, to really give the ACC something to hang their hat on.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I hope it does well for everybody. I know they want that revenue. They need some stuff just to compete with the other ones, but I hope it turns out as big as everybody likes to think it will here. So
they're talking a good game, but
yeah, we'll see if they can back it up.
If you look at it a little more, it's a little more dicey.
Yeah, I don't think it's as definitely a sure thing as some would make it out to be. So,
I guess
real quick, Doug, I do want to talk. Oh, go ahead.
I guess if we're going to talk of the ACC network, is kind of iffy. I think the biggest news is that they extended that grant of rights to 2036, which basically means Florida State can't leave for the Big 12, and then they locked in Notre Dame if they're going to join a conference, which
I don't see that happening.
It doesn't happen, but it's good.
NBC renewed their deal through.
Yeah,
they had it on years,
but it's important that they have that Notre Dame connection, and they have that 5-game deal or whatever, 5 games per year.
Mm-hmm.
If Notre Dame joins the Big Ten, that deal goes away, and now they're locked into the ACC. So, those were probably the two sure things that got locked up were big too.
Yeah, I think it's good even from that 5-game standpoint, like you mentioned, Doug. That's a great point. You can't blame them. It makes no sense if you're Notre Dame to join the ACC in football when you've got that deal with NBC. Like, there's no reason you're on national television for, 8 games?
Yeah, something.
I think it's 8 games a year. So, and even their other 4 get picked up nationally. They're going to be on, CBS or ESPN or ABC. They're going to be on there.
They played Wake Forest on national television, and they're not going to join the ACC, so they can play Wake Forest on the ACC network.
No, not at all. That ain't happening. So they can do their basketball and enjoy other sports on ACC network, but not football. That's not happening anytime soon. So, Doug, I did want to talk about here briefly. We have been doing the top 16 for 2016, where we had All of our staff, we had Skip. He put in his top 16, but he didn't write anything. So we needed to get him on here to kind of explain himself next week. But
He's just a ballot stuffer.
So his votes counted. They did absolutely influence the overall staff look, but there were a couple, Doug, and we'll get more into it. I don't want to give away our top guys right now. We'll talk about that next week, but there were surprises. I know you had Andrew Matupuaka very high in your list, and as a staff, the rest of our staff did not agree with you. I think I had him. I know I had him top 5. I think I had him maybe 3rd or 4th, but I think Matupuaka, just because of the situation there, becomes that much more important.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to be a good defense, you better have a really good middle linebacker. So that in itself makes him pretty important. And considering that Virginia Tech has with Carson Lyden leaving, and even if he was there, he was going to be unproven anyway. So I mean, the depth there is pretty thin. So combine middle linebacker is an important position in itself, and then the fact that he pretty much can't get injured. I thought that made him pretty important.
I would agree. I think that made him. I agree, and I don't think either one of us had Sam Rogers. Did you even have Sam Rogers on your list? I think I had him like 15th or 16th.
No, I didn't have him on my list.
I think he's going to be a great leader, but we talked about McMillan's role being, changing, not knowing what it is. I don't know what, if you say that already about McMillan, it's really even more so with Sam Rogers.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Rogers, he's going to be a big part of the offense, but, we're not sure what's going on with the running backs in terms of their role, and also Virginia Tech's pretty deep at running back with McMillan and Rogers, and if McKenzie and Williams can get back healthy, I think his skill set is kind of replaceable in that sense. So if we're doing it most important, if you remove Sam Rogers from the team, I think you would find somebody to fill that role.
Yeah, I mean, the leadership part I get, and, obviously he's become kind of one of the spokesmen on the team along with Kenny Canham, but I don't have him that high on my list. I think there's roles going to change, and, we'll talk more about our top guys coming up, Doug, but I guess
there might be some quarterbacks in those top guys.
Well, and that's the thing, too. Like, I didn't even have Brendan Motley on my list. I mean, he's a backup in my mind. I think Gerard Evans is going to be the guy. But we had some other people on our staff also like Brendan Motley. So he got in there, I guess, earlier this week. So
I think I sneak peek. I think I had Evans high and Motley lower just because, I think Evans needs to be the starter. But, Motley's important just as a little safety valve there, just in case, just like last year.
Safety valve. I like that. Yeah, that's a good one. So we'll have to wait and see. No, I don't want to give anything away, but we get in our top 5 here on Friday today. So
I think I had Matupuaka at number 1, and he's already off the list. Come
on.
on.
Yeah, we've already gone through that. You and I are the only ones who see the value in Matupuaka. Even Skip didn't have him on there.
We're probably the only 2 in the whole fan base.
Oh, yeah. See, this is what I mean. We can't. I can't throw Skip under the bus too much. We have to get him to explain himself next week. But I think he's got some explaining to do. So we'll definitely have to get his take on everything.
Yeah, we could go through his top 16, and the podcast will take 2 hours.
Yeah, he's gotten on a soapbox a couple of times. We need to give him another soapbox for that. Doug, you got a shout out this week?
Oh, shoot, you didn't prepare me for that. Shout out.
You know it's coming. You just don't know when the shout out's coming.
I didn't know we were wrapping up. I always got to shout out our number 1 loyal listener, Whit Babcock. Hope everything's going well. Hope you're getting some time off here. I know media day and the Hokie Club kickoff stuff was stressful, but hope you're getting some R&R here before football season starts.
That's true, Doug. You mentioned it on the board, but anything you want to tell us about going to the Hokie Club dinner last week?
Oh, he talked about how the ACC kickoff didn't involve very much groundbreaking things. I would say that that was more the same at the Richmond Hokie Club dinner. some coach speak, some interesting things. John Lasers told some good jokes. But other than that,
Any jokes you can remember, or just like, were they like dad jokes or like jokes you can actually share with us? Doug, you there? You're cutting up here a little bit, Doug. All right. Well, I guess I'll go ahead and do my shout out before we send it off here. So I have to give my shout out this week. I mean, I have to give it to recruiting. That had to be, I would say, in the time. This is 5 years now. I've been doing, or at least 5 summers now covering Virginia Tech recruiting. That was by far the biggest one day I think that they've had. So kudos to just the whole coaching staff. That was a very big camp. A very big cookout, very successful. I think they accomplished everything they wanted to and more. We do have, again, there was a silent verbal commit that we can't really divulge into much right now. He doesn't want that out. So we've respected that commitment's wishes, and we will be kind of keeping an eye on what's going on with that when he wants to announce. But keep checking back with the VT Zone. We've got some excellent coverage we've been going through from last weekend. I know our friend Michael Clark, Brian Doan, they've got all kinds of stuff going, a lot of stuff still coming on anything going on with Virginia Tech targets. So I'd like to thank Doug Bowman for valiantly jumping in solo with me today. We'll see if we can get Skip back on here next week. But for Doug Bowman, I'm Jason Stamm. We'll check you guys back here next week.